Hello everybody, Canton Township Clerk Michael Segrist here. Today we're going to talk a little bit about voting your ballot. And we're going to dispel a couple of concerns people have over the tools that we use when voting. For most of our history, individuals have been using some semblance of a ballpoint pen when they vote. And this was something that had been used for a couple of decades, but in 2017, Canton Township, along with all communities in the state of Michigan, got brand new voting equipment. And that voting equipment is a little bit more expensive, it's a little bit more robust, can handle larger volumes, but it is a little bit more sensitive. We went from analog scanners to digital scanners. And the digital scanners are far more accurate, however, they're more sensitive and they are very costly to repair. And so we're going to talk about why now in Canton Township we use felt tip markers for marking our ballot. These are sometimes referred to as Sharpies. Sharpies are a different brand that we do not use in Canton Township. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is. So first and foremost, we're going to talk a little bit about Ballot Design. This is an extra absentee ballot from the August primary, which was conducted about a month ago here in Canton Township in 2022. This is our normal ballot design. We have our partisan sections. On the left, we have the Democratic primary, and on the right, we have the Republican primary. We have a third column here, which is the proposal section. This is the nonpartisan section. So in a typical primary, a voter is going to have to choose which column they want to vote in. However, everybody gets an opportunity to vote on the third column, which is the nonpartisan section. So first and foremost, let's get into it, and let's talk about what it looks like when we use our ballot marking device. We are going to start with our Sharpie. This is a fine tip Sharpie, and notice I am not pressing down too hard, but I am bubbling in the oval right next to Ryan Kelly's name. Now we're going to use the felt tip marker, and I am going to bubble in right next to our first candidate. And then finally, we are going to use a random ballpoint pen, and I'm going to bubble in our first candidate with that ballpoint pen. Now, some concerns that we have are with bleed through and potentially leading to inaccurate tabulation. What's important to note is when we design our ballots, they are done in a way that the ovals will never overlap. Notice we have one bleed through. However, under no circumstances could it ever line up with an oval based on how we design our ballot, and that was intentional. So let's look at, now what we do notice is we've got no bleed through with the ink pen, and we cannot see the felt tip marker with any bleed through, but it looks as though our Sharpie marker might be causing a bleed through. And this is part of the reason why we don't use Sharpie brand markers. However, what's important to note is if we did use Sharpie brand markers, it cannot inadvertently cause an overvote, an undervote, or a stray mark on the ballot because those ovals are designed to not overlap. So why then do we use our felt tip marker as opposed to our ballpoint pen? And this is why. I'm going to take a tissue with nothing on it, rub it over our felt tip marker. Notice there is no residue. There is nothing on our tissue. When I go over the ballpoint pen, and it's been about 2 minutes since I used the ballpoint pen, you will see, and it's going to be slight, that there is a ink exchange on this tissue. When people vote absentee, that's not a problem because the ink has had days or weeks to dry. But in the precinct, on election day, ink pens will cause a transfer of ink from the ballot itself onto the tabulator equipment. Those tabulators cost the taxpayers around $7,600 each. We have 33 of them here in Canton Township. And the repair can be very expensive. If there is an issue, let's say an ink exchange onto the tabulator, it could cause the tabulator to malfunction and not read a ballot correctly. So what we do is we recommend using felt tip markers solely because there's no transfer of ink, and it protects the taxpayer-funded equipment that we use for running our elections. Knowing full well that there is no transfer and there is no bleed-through that could cause any type of errors or issues while voting. And that's how we ensure that every single valid vote in Canton Township is counted exactly how the voter fills out their ballot. And that is why we recommend using felt tip markers.